As promised, and I'm looking forward to it, a chat with Michael Balderstone from the Hemp Party here in WA. G'day, Michael. It's really good to speak with you.
Hey Tony, thanks for having me.
I can't believe we haven't caught up over many decades where I've been campaigning for cannabis law reform too. But hey, the Hemp Party couldn't be more relevant, could it, at the moment?
Well, we ran in the last federal election. We ran in every state, but WA was our biggest vote, which I found pretty interesting. And we've got a lot of members over here, and I've been here the last couple of weeks, and I can't find anyone opposed to medical cannabis. It's just so obvious, isn't it? And there's been a lot of good publicity on it the last year.
It has really increased, but it's been a decades-long battle to really confirm what people like you and I were saying in the 70s, Michael, and that is that it is a very useful herb. It's got medical applications, and banning it not only doesn't it make sense on health grounds, but as you point out, it really opens up people who seek medical cannabis to having to go through criminals, bikies, and triads, and it's a gateway because it's illegal.
Well, certainly I think organised crime absolutely loves prohibition. They're laughing all the way to the bank or their mattress or wherever they're stashing all their dough. And more, I'm based in Nimbin, and because of our reputation, I suppose, a lot of people come there looking for medical cannabis. And thank God the police have got a bit of discretion over there in New South Wales now. And, I've been smoking pot for probably nearly 40 years most of the time, and even I am amazed by its healing properties. We're just seeing some pretty incredible results from especially people with cancer or tumours, but children with epilepsy or, quite a few things on the autism spectrum. You only need a tiny drop and the whole thing can change. And, that's just, anyway, we've been really disappointed that even the trials they're doing, are just the tip of the iceberg. So, maybe there's a million or two regular cannabis users in Australia, and it's not helping us at all. So hopefully, I'd like to think that Malcolm Turnbull, who I think smoked quite a bit of pot, might do something if he's re-elected. Not sure about Bill Shorten, but it's time they did something on a national scale, I reckon.
Absolutely, and we've discussed it on this program a few times, Michael, that people like me who've survived post-traumatic stress, for many of us, it's the only thing that will reduce nightmares and reduce flashback and allow us to get some more sleep.
Yeah, good on you. I didn't realise that. I got sent to boarding school when I was 10, which I found really traumatic, and really cannabis just helped me get my sanity back, and it helped me untangle things a bit and get back into my childhood, work things out. And, maybe we're some of the luckier few, because there's people now I'm meeting who have been coming out of Afghanistan and Iraq who have got serious traumatic dramas happening. And the fact that they've got to go out and buy pot illegally, and there's no sympathy for it much at all. It's hard to understand because it's fantastic for our situations. The other thing I think people aren't realising is you don't have to get stoned. What we're finding is the cold extraction of cannabis into a tincture. You don't, THCA, you don't actually, unless you heat cannabis, you don't get that stoned effect. So I'm not saying it all works with THCA, but a lot of people are getting a lot of healing without getting the stoned effect. So
and indeed,
I don't think governments or people even realise this.
No, and it's very hard to get your head around because there is some detail like the different cannabinoids in there, the use of CBD, and being able to breed strains, if it's legal, where people can go and they'll know the level of THCA versus CBD and the other healing properties. And we've seen it in Colorado, I saw a great video of this little old lady going into a medical cannabis shop, and she said, "Oh, I'd like an eighth of an ounce of this one because I have to go out today, and the CBD is going to help my arthritis." And and so I can sleep tonight, I'll have a little eighth of an ounce of this high THC one because I always have sweet dreams. And it was really cute, but it was also quite serious, Michael, in the relief it can bring to people. And you're probably not surprised with recent surveys showing that support for medical cannabis is greatest among Australians over 50.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, our generation kind of learned about it a bit, didn't they? You know what? It's great to talk to someone who knows what they're talking about, Tony, I must say. You know, one of the huge things coming out of America now is what you're saying, that they're developing certain strains for certain ailments. And it's an extraordinary plant. There's so many variations of the different, they've got about 100 cannabinoids now they've discovered. So the different mixes create different effects. You know, and under Prohibition, certainly in New South Wales, it's nearly all hydroponic and it's nearly all the same strain, which is a Vietnamese strain, I think, just big, fat hydroponic buds grown in a bath of chemicals. It's just so different to organic outdoor pot, which is what everyone's using around Nimbin.
Oh, everyone knows bush buds are better.
Oh, absolutely, and quite different. You know, people aren't realising there's a huge difference. So, yeah, it's good to talk to someone who knows what they're on about, Tony.
Well,
good on you.
It's only out of journalistic research that I've found this information out, of course, Michael. But seriously,
Yeah.
it's been interesting too. They've had recent research out on a whole bunch of things. But with the cannabis law here, there is so little knowledge about how it works and the benefits of it. For instance, over in Canada, the new Prime Minister there, Justin Trudeau, is estimating they will make $9.7 billion in tax. So it's not like, we've got a budget either with Labor or Liberal that's going to be very healthy. And surely making healthy Australians with something they can grow at home, tax it or whatever, we're going to address the budget bottom line, Michael.
Well, Colorado made so much more money than they expected. They had to give some back, I heard, to charities or something. They've got some technical law. I think you're right. You know, the amount of money to be made is extraordinary, and on the other side, the amount of money to be saved with policing, with health costs, with jail costs, with all the health dramas we've got. I just think it's a win-win-win on every level, isn't it? And, you know, I wish someone would really do a big PhD and do the maths on it, because I think we'd be shocked how much money we could make and save just with a stroke of a pen, really.
Yeah, absolutely, and it really is going to take some political will, which is a little bit on short supply in Australia at the moment. But with so many groups, including those supporting parents with kids with epilepsy, and as we saw on Channel 7, etc., the groundswell is there so that we can push them along. And I'm really glad that you're in this electoral phase. And it's a really cool thing that you've actually hooked up with the Sex Party. And a lot of people have been finding out that both the Sex Party and the Hemp Party are far from a joke, even if we do have a bit of a giggle. There's some serious policy issues that they've had some influence in. And you're part of the ongoing push for more rational laws on cannabis. And it seems like the old hippies are coming into their own these days, mate.
Good on you, Tony. You know, we've been close to Fiona Patten, who got elected in Victoria for the Sex Party, and she's terrific. And she's the only honest that I know politician in Australia, saying she's a daily cannabis user. She makes total sense. Just there's been so much nonsense spread about cannabis and what it can do for you and do for you. People should remember President Obama, who I think's been a big part of the changes in America, smoked heaps of pot, as he wrote about in his biography. You know, people think it's going to turn you stupid, or it's going to put you into other drugs or send you nuts. It's worth remembering no one's ever died from cannabis use in 10,000 year history. And compared to other drugs or alcohol, it's so safe. One of the things that really upsets me is that ice and cannabis are in the same basket for the poor old police. You know, they need to change it and separate cannabis away from the other illegal drugs. It's so different, isn't it? Like, it's a dried herb, all the rest are processed, or or just plain chemicals nowadays.
And it's got zero toxicity. And a lot of people are starting to wake up to those false claims that it could bring on latent schizophrenia and psychosis. And we note two things about that. First of all, that in the what do they call it, the hydro breeds, in some of the skunk, they've actually bred out a protein that is a natural antipsychotic. So in the illegal world, where they're breeding it for strength, etc., there is some strains out there that can bring on psychotic episodes. But the other thing they found is there's only a very small, I think it's 4 to 5% of the entire population that have this gene pattern that means they might be susceptible to onset of psychosis from cannabis. And that's the worst of any solid evidence that I've ever heard about cannabis.
Yeah, look, and I'm not going to say it's for everybody, and the people who do have a bad reaction to it, virtually everyone completely recovers. So, you know, what you're talking about, Ted, too, it's a big thing. They've bred for THC, the high, and taken the CBD, the antipsychotic, out of it. So, you know, we've got new strains happening in Nimbin now where it's got even almost an equal amount of the CBD and THC, which brings it right back into line. Look, you know, there's so much new research coming out of America, and it looks like before the end of the year, California's going to totally legalise cannabis. So I can't believe we don't start getting some impact from there.
Yeah, indeed, and we're going to be carrying on, but I hope we don't see more duck shoving and buck passing. And it was also quite disappointing, Michael, to see a couple of months ago a great big media story about some new research on cannabis, which it turned out was sponsored by a pharmaceutical company and was actually not anything to do with the herb. They were researching into a synthetic cannabinoid, and we know the record of those synthetic cannabinoids. So it seems to be that big pharma and other interests will continue to work against any change. And I noted with my audience before, Michael, a pretty tragic set of tweets on Twitter a couple of months ago from Colorado in the US, where it is legal. And it was people who said, listen, we don't want these stupid cannabis laws, or marijuana as they call it, because my family works at the jail and we're getting fewer and fewer prisoners in there, and we're going to lose our jobs because of legalized cannabis. What a crazy world.
Yeah, that's crazy. I remember Jack Herer when he came out here saying the biggest lobbyist against prohibition, against changing prohibition in America, was the jail guards union.
Absolutely.
But the pharmaceutical industry have actually got a lot to lose with this plant, because, you know, if people were allowed to grow a few plants in their backyard, even you know, put a few leaves in your salad, we're finding now raw cannabis has a great benefit, and nothing stoner about that at all. They've got a lot to lose, so they're going to fight tooth and nail with all sorts of lies and propaganda. The other thing I think is the police probably, you know, and I don't want to blame the police because I think it's pretty embarrassing for them, realising they've been barking up the wrong tree for a long time. But I think they have got a lot of vested interest in keeping their power and jobs. And it'd be nice for the police to turn around and say, look, cannabis is so different to the other illegal drugs. Let's separate them, you know. Give us a bit more discretion.
Yeah, it makes some sense. Listen, I'm going to wrap up now, but Michael, all the best to you and your candidates. And regardless, really, of the election, mate, I know you and myself and other people like us will continue to push for rational, useful, and healthy changes to our cannabis laws, mate. Good luck.
Thanks heaps, and thanks heaps for listening and having us on the show, Tony. Good on you, man.